Good evening. My name is Ko Ishikura. I'm a president of Green International Affiliates, Inc. and the chair of the Board of Trustees of the Engineering Center Education Trust, TECET. I want to welcome all of you this year's TECET Leadership Celebration. Thanks to vaccine, we can meet this in person this year. And also we are streaming live this event, so those of you who are participating virtually, welcome to you as well. And I thank you for all of you demonstrating your commitment to engineering and survey community and to be here tonight. Thank you. And TECET mission is simple: enhancing the Massachusetts engineering and land surveying community's impact. This event is a way to highlight some of the things we do and raise a fund that help us continue to fulfill our mission. With all your help and generosity, I'm pleased to announce we almost raised $120,000 for this event. And this far exceeds our expectation. We had no idea if you're going to show up tonight. And actually, many of you, this probably is the first in-person event you're attending, since COVID started. So as I said, we had no idea, but thank you for showing up. And over the years, we honored many individuals with the TECET Leadership Award. Many of our honorees have been instrumental in making the difference in the built environment and contributing to society. Others have been honored for their example as engineers, surveyors, related professionals, and leaders who embody how engineering and land surveying expertise improve the quality of life for everyone. Tonight, we are pleased to recognize the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs, Secretary Theoharides. I practiced her last name for like 100 times today. So I met Secretary a few minutes ago. I said her name. Did I do it okay? She's like, okay. And I said to her, you have no expectation other people pronounce your name correctly. She's like, right. All right, good, great. That makes two of us. So, and we have MassDOT Deputy Chief Engineer for Construction, Mike McGrath, here tonight. And I have to say he's a former because he recently retired from the position. So congratulations to Mike for your retirement. I will get there in a few more years. Proceeds from tonight's dinner support our education and outreach effort. Many of the programs we support aim to promote activities to raise level of interest of young students in the STEM field. I'm pleased to let you know that we are, again, donating to Girls Inc. of Lynn, Massachusetts. Proceeds from this dinner also support our headquarters, the Engineering Center on Beacon Hill. This is home to our three sponsoring organizations: the American Council of Engineering Company in Massachusetts, ACEC Mass, Boston Society of Civil Engineers Section, BSCES, Massachusetts Association of Land Surveyors and Civil Engineers, which is MAUSE. Attending tonight are representatives of a sponsorship organization. We'd like to acknowledge MAUSE President Dan Dremser of Hancock Associates. Is Dan? Oh, virtual. So, all right. BSCS President Sharon Fitzgerald of Harvard Austin Land Company, and ACEC Mass President Scott Miller of Haley Ward. I want to thank our Board of Trustees, who are all here this evening. Joining us in person is Paul Moyer of Geoengineering, Vice Chair, Sean Ewald of BSC Group, Treasurer, William Hadge of GZA, Secretary, Reed Brockman of AECOM, Mike Spioni of Weston Sampson, Ellen White of HNTB. Also virtually joining us is Carlos Pina of Fourth Infrastructure and Environment, Paul Foley of Feldman Land Surveyors, Brian Kozella of BK Associates, and John Vozella of Vozella Design Group, and David Bond of VHB, who did tremendous work for this event. We are fortunate to have two past honorees tonight in attendance. I would like to acknowledge Leo Peters, who is 2001 honoree, Leo. And Jim McCloskey, who is 2017 honoree. Thank you both for coming here tonight. And from the staff at Engineering Center Education Trust, thank you to Elizabeth Tyminski, TECET Executive Director. Elizabeth, thank you. Avi Goodman, Chief of External Affairs. Rich Keenan, Director of Association Services. Rich. Yeah. Bill Victor, our accountant, and our amazing membership associates, Michelle Monette, Sean McShane, and Rebecca Kennedy. And Rebecca did a lot of work, tremendous work for this one, so thank you, Rebecca. I would like to recognize the major sponsor of tonight's dinner. These firms are well recognized for their contribution to the engineering and land surveying community. 2021 Leadership Celebration sponsors: Golden Circle, Donovan Hatem. Yeah, thank you. Leader, VHB. Patron, AECOM, Chambro, and Green International Affiliates. And thank you also to the numerous friends and friend and supporter sponsors that are listed on our website and on the table. These sponsorships are vitally important to us, the success of this leadership celebration. So thank you for all the firms that sponsor this year. Thank you very much. So now, I would like to invite our TECET trustee, Ellen White, to the stage. Ellen? Ellen will be recognizing this year's TECET Scholarship recipient. Go ahead, Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you, Ko. Each year, TECET is pleased to offer a $5,000 merit scholarship awarded over 2 years to a Massachusetts high school senior who plans to attend an ABET-accredited engineering, pre-engineering, or land surveying program. Last year, we awarded the 2020 TECET Scholarship to Melanie Sola, who graduated from Madison Park High School here in Boston. Melanie is currently a sophomore at Northeastern University studying Management Information Systems, focusing on engineering project management. Melanie is now in her second year of receiving the scholarship, and we are happy that she is here tonight to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Like she said, my name is Melanie Sola. I'm a graduate of Madison Park Technical Vocational High School. I'm a second-year student at Northeastern University studying Management Information Systems. I grew up here in Boston, and I stayed in Boston for school, where I developed my passion for STEM. I want to take the time to thank everyone for being here, and thank you to the Engineering Center Education Scholarship. This pandemic has added to the financial burden of what it is to be a college student, and the TECET Scholarship has allowed me to succeed within my time at Northeastern. This includes completing an internship with Triple Ring Technologies, a biomedical engineering firm in the South End, within my first year of college. Although this past pandemic was difficult, with most classes being held online, I sought out many resources to ensure I would succeed. Without the support of the Engineering Center Education Trust Scholarship, I would not have been as prepared as I am for my second year at Northeastern. I'm beyond grateful, and thank you so much for supporting and believing in me.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Melanie. This year, the committee selected Maritza DaCosta from Dennis Yarmouth Regional High School as a 2021 recipient. Maritza is an ambitious and dedicated student who is currently studying biomedical engineering at Cornell University. Due to her school location, Maritza was unable to attend our event in person, but she sent along her thanks and appreciation. She says her interest in biomedical engineering began when her grandfather was diagnosed with cancer. She was fascinated by the complexity of cancer and captivated by the fast pace of this ever-changing field of study. And as a result, she's decided to pursue a bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering and hopes to pursue a doctorate degree to help improve the lives of those around her. She says biomedical engineering is the intersection of her two greatest interests, engineering and medicine, and she feels a sense of responsibility to use these interests to help others. So thank you and congratulations to Maritza. Now to our first leadership award of the evening. Please welcome Gwen Weisberg from Donovan Hatem, our Golden Circle sponsor, to introduce Kathy Theoharides, who we are honoring for her leadership in guiding the Commonwealth towards a better and cleaner future. And I did not practice as much as Co, and I'll work on that. Thank you.
Okay, I just promised the secretary I'd try and get her name right. We'll see what happens. So Secretary Theoharides received a Bachelor of Arts in Ecology and Evolutionary Biology from Dartmouth College and a Master's of Science in Ecology and Environmental Biology from UMass Boston. Go UMass. Secretary Theoharides was trained as a field biologist and began her career working in Washington, D.C. at the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition and Defenders in Wildlife. While in D.C., she worked on the federal Farm Bill and conservation policy and helped establish a national program partnering with federal and state agencies to integrate climate change adaptation into policy, budgets, and planning. After leaving D.C., Secretary Theoharides served as the executive director of the Hilltown Land Trust in Massachusetts and founded the Theoharides Consulting, which provided climate and environmental policy analysis, strategic planning, and facilitation to universities, governmental agencies, and nonprofits. Secretary Theoharides joined the Baker administration in 2016 as Director of Climate and Global Warming Solutions in the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. As Director and later Assistant Secretary, she guided development and implementation of the administration's efforts to protect Massachusetts from impacts of climate change, to support cities and towns, and to coordinate efforts across state government to reduce emissions and assist communities in adapting to impacts of climate change. Secretary Theoharides helped implement Executive Order 569, led the development in the state Hazard Mitigation and Climate Adaptation Plan, and created the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. The program was able to reach 50% of cities and towns in the Commonwealth in under 3 years. Secretary Theoharides was promoted to Undersecretary in 2019 and continued to advance the Commonwealth's efforts on climate change, to strengthen regional and national coalitions focusing on bipartisan state leadership, including the United States Climate Alliance and Transportation Climate Initiative. Secretary Theoharides now oversees the Commonwealth's environmental, natural resource, and energy regulatory agencies, including environmental protection, public utilities, energy resources, conservation and recreation, agricultural resources, and fish and game. and she serves as chairman of the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority, Energy Facilities Siting Board, and Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. Secretary Theoharides is being honored tonight by the Engineering Center and Education Trust for guiding the Commonwealth towards a better and cleaner future. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce Secretary Theoharides.
Well, the third time is the charm on that name. That was beautifully done. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here, and a big thank you to the Engineering Center Education Trust to receive this award and to be with you all tonight. I am a really big fan of the mission of the organization, and I believe that building camaraderie and community and helping that next generation into the field is really key to not only building a stronger field, but building stronger solutions. And perhaps this is especially important in engineering, which is so focused on developing solutions. I'm not an engineer, but in my mind, engineers are solution makers, problem solvers, the how do we make this work people, and often the big dreamers too. My son, my 3-year-old, who's our youngest of 3, has a book called Someone Builds the Dream. And I don't get teary at a lot of children's books anymore. This is, the third time around. But this one sort of gets me a little bit, and particularly because there's an offshore wind piece in it. But it's about the fact that when we have big dreams, someone actually has to get out there and make them happen. I think the book is missing a chapter on design, permitting, and engineering, which I spend a lot of time embroiled in, but it gets it right, that these dreams we have, these big goals we have, whether they're in climate change and clean energy or healthcare or housing or transportation, really take a lot of people and a lot of solution-oriented people to make them happen. And in the Commonwealth, we certainly have big goals in the clean energy and climate space. We're one of the states that is going forward with net zero by 2050 goals and at least 50% emission reductions by 2030. And to give you a sense of the scale of those goals, today we just broke ground on our first offshore wind project at utility scale in the Commonwealth. It's taken, we wrote the legislation in 2016, the governor signed it. It then took 2 years to select the first project. It took until the end of 21 to get it permitted at the federal level, and we finally broke ground on it this fall after many project delays. And I think perhaps what is most compelling about all of this, in addition to it being the first utility scale project up and down the East Coast and really kicking off this industry, is that we now know from our modeling for 2050 that we have to build 1.5 of these projects that just took us 5.5 years every year starting in 2030 to get to 2050 goals. And so a lot of permitting, a lot of design, a lot of engineering, and a lot of shipbuilding and crane building and getting people out into this field. We also have to do a lot with our homes and our cars. And in fact, emissions from people's houses and their cars are a significant part of how we get to 2030. And in Massachusetts, with the building stock we have, old, cold climate, not super well insulated, we are looking at retrofitting, deep decarbonization retrofitting of weatherization, windows, all the rest, 1 million homes by 2030. On the transportation side, to get to these goals, we're looking at 750,000 zero-emission vehicles by 2030. These are not small numbers for a state like Massachusetts. And so, I think in addition to engineering solutions that work, engineering solutions that people are willing to adopt and that fit into people's lives, and making these accessible and approachable is something that seems to be increasingly important to me as we make this transition. I don't remember who said we weren't going to have cell phones and they weren't going to catch on, but they certainly did, and that's the kind of thing we need to do with clean energy. At the same time we're working on reducing our carbon emissions, we're also really working on the climate resiliency front, and this is an area where this group has been just so valuable to the state as we move forward. Special thank you to ACEC and to Abby Goodman and so many other members of this community who, right after I started back in 2016, sort of scooped me up and said, what are you going to do about climate resiliency? And that was my sort of full-time job at the time, and I was trying to coordinate efforts across state government and hearing a lot of, well, that's hard, that sounds hard, this is going to be hard. And from this group on I don't know, it was early in the week, maybe a Monday or Tuesday morning, I actually said, you can do this and we'll help you think about the right way to do this. And that was very valuable for me as a new state employee to hear that there were people out there who were willing to roll up their sleeves and think about how a partnership between state government and municipalities could work and how we could actually get into the nuts and bolts of not just grant programs and energy procurements, but also how you update policies and regulations and design standards to account for the changes we're seeing in terms of climate change. More water everywhere, heavier rainfall events, coastal erosion, and heat, which we're seeing increasingly and which actually challenges our infrastructure in major ways in addition to public health. And so as we've been moving forward on this, we now actually have almost 95% of our communities signed up in our municipal vulnerability preparedness program. We have trained somewhere on the order of 500 vendors, many of them with engineering backgrounds, to go through a planning process with municipalities to improve their resiliency at a community scale. And what this all ends up meaning is real projects and real jobs to improve infrastructure, to build resiliency, but also to think about the community in the future holistically, which I think is an often overlooked opportunity with climate change, right? We have to green our energy system, we have to build resiliency to climate change, but also we have to make our communities more livable, safer, more equitable, and create this clean energy future in a way that brings everyone along and particularly includes women and minorities in the new jobs that are available. So I'm very excited about all of this going forward. It's not always an easy day or an easy space to convince people the changes we need to make on the climate front. But I did pull an engineering quote I liked, and this is probably, I didn't go far down in my Google search, so this one might be one you've heard before. But it rang true, and as a former scientist who turned policymaker, it also rang true to me. But scientists study the world as it is. Engineers create the world that has never been. And this is from Theodor von Karman, who is a Hungarian-American aerospace engineer and physicist. And I think that's exactly what we need this community to do. Think about the world that could be, that hasn't been, and make sure you have conversations not with just this community, but with policymakers so that we can see that vision and know that these goals are achievable and that there are solutions that we can implement that will work and will create this greener, cleaner future. So thank you very much. It's a real honor and a pleasure. Oh, this is not mine. I'll leave that there.
Thank you very much. Tonight, we are pleased to present Rossiter Family Scholarship and on behalf of William Rizzo Jr. Bill Rizzo served as a TECET chair from 2000 to 2008, I believe. So Bill, he's going to do the presentation.
Thank you, Co, and good evening. I'm, as Co said, I'm Bill Rizzo, former chair of TECET, and it is my distinct honor to present to you tonight the winner of the Rossiter Family Scholarship. For those of you who attended the last two dinners, you will remember that Selena and Al Rossiter, lifelong friends of mine, initiated an annual scholarship gift of $10,000 for engineering education. I am proud to have my name attached to it. The scholarship is need-based and targeted at Massachusetts women and minority men and women who are in a civil or environmental engineering program in the state. The $10,000 amount and the narrow criteria are consistent with the Rossiter's goal of impact giving, which will provide a significant, if not once-in-a-lifetime, career boost to the education of women and minorities in our profession. Selena and Al are here tonight, and I ask that you join me in an expression of thanks for their continued generosity. Selena, Al, would you stand, please? Thank you. Before I introduce this year's scholarship recipient, I would like to ask last year's recipient, Jenalise Garcia Ruiz, to give us a retrospective look at the impact of the Rossiter Family Scholarship on her career. Jenalise is a junior at UMass Lowell in the Civil and Environmental Engineering program, focusing on water resources engineering. Jenalise.
Good evening, everyone. I am blessed to be last year's recipient of the Rossiter Family Scholarship on behalf of Bill Rizzo. This scholarship has significantly propelled my career, helping me acquire a summer internship at Niche Engineering as a structural engineering intern, and becoming OSHA 10 certified. Additionally, since I could better afford my tuition, my books, and my living situation, I was able to become a research assistant last spring through the Urban Massachusetts Minority Participation Program, and during the summer through the Structural Engineering Research Group at UMass Lowell. The UMass SAM program was designed to encourage underrepresented students, such as myself, to conduct research in the field of interest. I successfully conducted experiments for the Massachusetts Department of Transportation and the City of Lowell through these programs. Additionally, I am the Technical Outreach Community Help Chair for the National Society of Black Engineers, creating volunteering opportunities for students of color and elementary and middle schoolers to engage in science, technology, engineering, and mathematic activities. The Rossiter family's donation helped me obtain an education with a greater advantage than students like myself would normally have. Coming to the United States at 9 years old with my single mother and 2 siblings was challenging, to say the least. We barely had any support, given that all my family lived in Puerto Rico and we didn't have much money. By working diligently and staying committed, I was able to get where I am right now. However, this is only the beginning of my bright future. I will obtain my PE, gain fieldwork experience, and position myself so I am guaranteed to be a successful engineer who gives back to their community. Thank you for making that even more possible, Mr. Bill Rizzo, Ms. Selena Rossiter, and Mr. Alan Rossiter. You have given me even more hope by believing in me and my goals. I value your generosity, and I will work hard to one day achieve my objectives and fulfill my wish to become a civil engineer. Thank you so much.
So now you know why she was awarded this scholarship. This year, 8 qualified applicants responded to our call for the scholarship. A short list of 3 were interviewed by a committee consisting of Elizabeth Tominski, Abby Goodman, Paul Moyer, Bill Hadge, Reed Brockman, Rebecca Kennedy, the Rossiters, and myself. While we would have been pleased to award the scholarship to any one of the finalists, this year's recipient was an easy choice because of his undeniable character and work ethic, his irrepressible optimism, an unswerving commitment to his engineering education, and his support of and dedication to his family, his faith, and his community. Indeed, he presented the stuff that makes for a great civil engineer and an even greater citizen. That recipient is Joseph Diaz, a senior in civil engineering at Merrimack College. In a moment, you will meet him, but first, his story. It begins in a very ordinary American way, shared by most of us here tonight, through an ancestor somewhere in our family tree, immigration to the United States for a better educational and economic opportunity for their family. Joseph's father immigrated to the United States from the Dominican Republic as a young boy and was raised by an uncle in Salem, Massachusetts. He met and married Joseph's mother during one of their frequent trips back to the DR and brought her to Salem, where they raised their 5 children. In fulfillment of that educational dream, this spring, both Joseph and his older brother will receive their undergraduate degrees, the first in their extended family to do so. It was in 7th grade that Joseph resolutely decided to become an engineer when he participated in an after-school STEM-granted program to design and build a new garden at his middle school. A precocious Joseph was in charge of the irrigation system, and later in ninth grade, the building design. He loved it and was permanently and passionately on the engineering hook, a vivid testimony to the testament of STEM. In high school, football came very easy for Joseph, and math did not. But rather than abandon his engineering career choice, he applied the work ethic demanded of a good football player to overcome his math deficiency. Ultimately, he excelled in both. In his senior year, he was named to the prestigious Harry Aganis All-Star North football team and graduated with a very respectable 3.67 GPA. He now tutors students in math. He had a handful of colleges expressing interest in him for their football programs, but rejected them all for the most uncommon reason that none had civil engineering programs. And so he matriculated to Merrimack, shouldering the daunting challenge of funding his education. After graduation, the Salem High School football coach called him back to coach the offensive line and junior varsity team, not so much for his football skill and knowledge as for his model character for the younger players. He is still a coach and mentor to Salem football players. Since then, he has mostly funded his education through employment and 5 different scholarships. He has also incurred a relatively modest amount of government and family debt. During the last 4 years, he has continually held 1 full-time job and at least 1 part-time job in addition to his full course load. He has gained solid professional experience with full-time jobs at New England Engineering and SPS Construction, coupled with part-time jobs as a janitor in the Salem schools, a sales clerk at Home Depot, and of course his football coaching. His scholarship reference at New England Engineering revealed that Joseph convinced him to hire him for a position that was neither advertised or open. He still holds that job. Despite his full course load and multiple jobs, Joseph finds time for his faith, his family, and his community. Every Sunday, he serves as a master of communication at his church, managing the Mass altar servers. He also volunteers to serve meals at a soup kitchen in Peabody and a food distribution charity in Salem. And lastly, in case you doubt that Joseph is sufficiently well-rounded, he is an accomplished percussionist, playing in the school orchestra and marching band. Indeed, one of his scholarships is for, quote, outstanding musical performance and passion for the arts. Not your typical engineer. Harkening back to his 7th grade garden irrigation system, Joseph's technical interests are not surprisingly in water resources, in which he is determined to get a master's degree. After gaining some professional experience and his PE, Joseph wants to go back to his ancestral homeland and build water-related infrastructure for the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Before giving you the joy of meeting Joseph, I want to mention one last piece of his engaging story. That is the role of his family. When asked if he had a role model or mentor who provided encouragement, he said with a blink of an eye, and I believe I saw a tear in that eye, "My dad, he is my hero." With that, please join me in welcoming and congratulating this remarkable young man, Joseph Diaz, joined by his mom and dad, Jose and Vielka Diaz. Joseph. It is my honor to present Joseph with a check for $10,000. If I had it, I would present it. Thank you. Joseph, it is with pleasure that I present you this scholarship check on behalf of TECET, the Rossiters, and myself.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo, for those kind words. I almost shed a tear right now myself, so bear with me, folks. But before I begin, good evening to everyone. I'd like to begin to say thank you for having me tonight. It is truly a privilege to be standing here tonight and be this year's Rossiter Family Scholarship recipient. To say I'm extremely grateful is an understatement, really. As I reflect on these last few years, I recognize that I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for the tremendous amount of love and support that I received along the way. This scholarship will allow me to not only finish my bachelor's degree in civil engineering at Merrimack College, but now I will confidently say that I'll be able to further my education as I'll be able to pursue my master's upon graduation. I understand the importance of receiving a college degree and all the opportunities that will follow. And now I can say that it can be accomplished without worrying or having any financial obstacles in my way. It has always been a goal of mine to create a positive impact in today's challenges in the workplace as a civil engineer. And this scholarship is truly an investment in me as an individual, and as I continue to get one step closer to achieving this goal. I continue to work hard every day and give it my all no matter the circumstances. I'd like to thank the Rossiter family for their sponsoring the scholarship, as they have already made tremendous impacts to several individuals like myself. I'd also like to thank Mr. Rizzo and the Engineering Center Education Trust Committee for sponsoring and selecting me to be this year's recipient. Truly, none of this would be possible without them. And finally, I'd like to thank my parents for being able to support me in my goals and dreams, and more importantly, for all the work they continue to do for me. They absolutely mean the world to me, and without them, I truly wouldn't be able to be where I am today. Thank you.
And now you know why he was selected. As a bookend to this joyous presentation of a scholarship to an engineering student at the beginning of what will be an illustrious career. We will now pivot to a more somber acknowledgement of the loss of two giants in our community over the past year. Don Goldberg, co-founder of GZA and founding trustee of TECET, and Dom D'Eramo, principal at Sverdrup and Tetra Tech Rizzo, and also a founding trustee of TECET. I'd like to ask Bill Hadge, retired CEO of GZA and colleague of Don's, to offer his thoughts on Don's legacy, and then I will comment on Dom's. Bill?
Thank you, Bill. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Bill. Joseph, and all the scholarship winners, I can tell you one thing. I know that Don will be very proud to be part of this program tonight. Don passed away last February. He was 92. And he left a tremendous legacy as a husband and a father and a patriarch, engineer, and entrepreneur. He was truly an amazing man. He loved the outdoors. He loved the opera. He was an avid reader. He loved the symphony. He loved the ballet. He was as much a Renaissance man as anybody I knew. And he devoted many hours to charity, and he devoted a lot of time just trying to make people's lives a little easier. I know one of the things he did was help third graders in the city learn to read better. He, along with his partner, Bill Zoino, created a very vibrant firm based now in Norwood, which is from two people in 1964 to 700 people now in about 31 locations across the country. He was, as Bill said, he was a very special mentor to many, many people at GZA, and certainly to me. I would clearly not be as involved with both ACEC and TECET if not for Don. He gave me a very intentional nudge in about 2000, I think it was. And he said, you really should get involved in ACEC. He goes, it's good for the company. So I did. He felt it was very important for GZA to share the responsibility and the leadership for the well-being and advancement of the engineering community in Massachusetts. And he always demonstrated that through his own commitments. He absolutely would have loved to have been here tonight. I want to acknowledge and welcome his wife Maxine and his daughter Lisa, who are sitting where I was sitting, and also out there in cyber world, his daughter Anne and his son Jonathan. Don truly was an amazing family man. Don was very, very proud of his contribution to the creation of TECET. I remember him meeting informally with some of the leaders of the engineering community back before it was created in our office, back then in Newton. And at that time, TECET was really just a concept. But he was totally committed to making it a reality, and he really believed in the enduring values, virtues of community collaboration and cooperation. I want to mention as well, following Bill's comment, that he had a very special friendship with Dom D'Eramo. They worked together on many projects throughout the years, and in particular, they were very extremely attentive to each other as they declined as they got older. And I think it's very sweet. I wasn't really that aware of it, but Abby pointed it out to me that when Don was in the hospital later in life, Dom came to visit him, and when Dom was not doing so well, Don went to visit him. And Maxine sort of confirmed all that earlier this evening. So I think it's fitting that we're recognizing both of these giants on the same evening. I think they would really like that. And I haven't had a chance to say it, but my sincere condolences to the D'Eramo family, because Dom clearly was everybody knew who Dom was in Boston. Finally, I think it's very important for us to recognize and remember these men who were pioneers in the engineering community in Massachusetts and beyond. They have literally impacted tens of thousands of lives, the lives of their employees' families, and the many, many people who have been benefited from the projects that they made happen. And I think it wouldn't be an overstatement to say that probably millions of people have benefited from the projects that they played a huge role in making happen. So thank you for the opportunity to salute them. I will hand the mic back to Bill.
Thank you, Bill. It's my honor to say a few words about Dom D'Eramo. But first, I'd like to acknowledge Dom's wife, Janet, who is here tonight. Janet, when we were chatting earlier, reminded me of something I'd long forgotten, and that is that when I would go to visit Dom, she remembered that I liked two things: chocolate and almonds, which is spot on. Last spring when Dom passed, I wrote a tribute to him in the BSCES newsletter. And it resonates with me even more tonight than it did when I first put it together. And I thought I'd read it to you. It's titled, "A Tribute to My Brother, Dom D'Eramo." Indeed, Dom was a valued partner and cherished colleague of mine at Tetra Tech Rizzo, contributing inestimably to the unique culture of the company. He was respected, admired, and loved by everyone. But he was so much more to me. Dom and I worked together well before and long after his stint at Rizzo, starting during his leadership at Sverdrup and long after he retired. He had a profound influence on me, measured well beyond his professional competence and values. Though he was only a few years older than I am proud to call him my role model and mentor. An unquestioned icon in the Massachusetts engineering community, and especially at TECET, he was the first to urge me to get involved. His legacy of collegiality in our noble profession lives on in TECET today. To the extent that I have contributed to that legacy, I owe it mostly to him. He was a moral compass to me and all those around him, and seemed to always instinctively know what the right thing was to do, and he was never reticent about expressing it. And lastly, perhaps most endearingly, he was my Italian paesano and consigliere, advising me on the fine art of growing tomatoes, informing me on the culinary superiority of his region, Abruzzi, to my region, Campania, and captivating me with his tales as a child in Italy during World War II. He was not just a cherished colleague, but more the older brother I didn't have, forever wise and grounded, and through it all, totally unflappable. My world and that of the Massachusetts engineering community is greatly diminished without him. We will miss you, Dom. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. We're on now to our second leadership award of the evening. Please welcome David Spicer, the new MassDOT Deputy Administrator and Chief of Construction Engineering, to introduce Mike McGrath, who we are honoring for his leadership and dedication towards improving the Commonwealth's transportation infrastructure. David, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As mentioned, I'm David Spicer, MassDOT Highway Division's Deputy Administrator and Chief of Construction. It is my pleasure to introduce tonight one of the award recipients, Michael McGrath. Pronounced that correctly? Thank you. Although recently retired, Mike worked for MassDOT for the past 26 years, and I have been lucky enough to work side by side with Mike for the last 14 years. While Mike worked in various positions with the department, including contracts engineer and state construction engineer, during the past 16+ years, he has been the head of the state's construction program. During this time frame, the construction program has grown from less than $500 million a year to well over $1 billion under Mike's leadership. Mike has overseen some of the state's largest projects, the reconstruction of the Fore River Bridge, the Burns Bridge, the Longfellow Bridge, the Comm Ave Bridge, and the Whittier Bridge, as well as all electronic tolling on the Turnpike, replacement of the Fast 14 bridges on I-93, and countless other projects. Mike has also been instrumental in the improvements to project delivery at MassDOT, working on the introduction and implementation of the department's design build program, reducing the time it takes when bids for a project are opened to when a contractor can begin work from 90 days on average to less than 30 days, and introducing e-construction to the MassDOT construction section, where paper documents are now processed and approved all electronically. The last item was especially important during the current pandemic, where offices were forced to work remotely overnight, but under Mike's leadership, MassDOT construction did not miss a beat. Roads were still paved, bridges still repaired, construction contracts awarded, and contractors paid. And while all this is impressive and the result of Mike's leadership during his career, it's not what first comes to my mind when I think of Mike's leadership. For me, Mike's leadership was more evident on a daily basis with his construction team and colleagues. Mike's leadership led to him listening to others' concerns, tackling problems head-on, asking tough questions, always telling a good story, holding people accountable, standing up for his staff, and never losing his sense of humor and ability to laugh. So tonight, I would like to thank the Engineering Center for allowing me to introduce and congratulate Mike McGrath on this well-deserved honor.
So a couple of things to say first before we even start. One, everything he just said, I think is already right here on these pieces of paper. But I would like to thank the Engineering Center Education Trust Fund for this honor tonight. I'm very humbled by it. When I look back at the previous winners of it, I'm awed that I'm even being honored tonight. But I will say, listening to Joseph and the other young lady there, that received their scholarships, they're future recipients of this award, no doubt about it. I mean, pretty impressive. He's done more stuff in his young life, and I've done, I won't tell you how old I am, but he's done an awful lot. So, the other thing I want to say is my wife's a huge Patriots fan. They kick off at 8:20 tonight. So this is going to be short and sweet, and we're going to get out of here. So as a couple of people have already mentioned, I did retire from MassDOT after 26 years. It was a great career there. We did an awful lot of great projects. And my wife and I just flew home from Florida last night to be here tonight. Some people accuse me of doing anything for a free meal, but, well, we'll see. Over the years, I've witnessed a lot of different changes, both in the construction and consulting community, to make the MassDOT process better. When I first started with MassDOT, as Dave mentioned, it was under $500 million. I think it was like $400 million. And it was only an advertising program then. The big dig was booming along, spending all the money down there. It wasn't a lot for the rest of the state to work on. But after the project was over, we transformed the process into a very robust program. And as Dave indicated, it's $1.1 billion. I mean, that's an awful lot of money for a state of this size. And it's going to get even more thanks to President Biden and the infrastructure bill. But it doesn't happen overnight. It takes everyone working together to make something like that happen. And I think one of the biggest problems that we had to face in this whole process was dealing with what I call the 1950s technology. Paper-based, blue pens, paper. Dave loves paper, but we had to get rid of it. And I used to kid him that he still had a quill somewhere in his pocket somewhere to sign off on things. But just as an example of what I'm talking about, our old process of processing estimates, every 2 weeks an estimate gets processed for a construction project. It'll come into my office after it went through the contractor, the resident engineer, the area engineer, the district highway director, then it would come to my office. And I had to sign a funding document and also the estimate itself. And I estimated at one time, I signed my name 32,000 times over a 2-year period. Just think about that. That's carpal tunnel syndrome at its max, right? And I used to kid people. I say, you want to get me something for Christmas, give me a box of blue pens, I can use them. So we had to make some changes, and we had to make them over several different years. I think the first big step that we did was go online bidding. We used to have people come into our building, sit down on the second floor, getting last-minute quotes from subcontractors so they could put their bids together, or they're sitting across the street where there used to be some parking lots, and it took a long time. We put all those plans and specifications together, finally bid a project. But then once we opened up a job, it took us like 4 days to figure out who the low bidder was, because we had to take all that information and put it back into the computer system. We had people actually retyping that same information into the computer system, and then we could finally figure out who the low bidder was. But now, with this new online bidding system, within 20 minutes, doesn't matter how many jobs we open up, we know right away who they are. We revised our delegation of authority. It used to be when we had the old Board of Commissioners, every item had to go to the commissioners, right? You had a dollar change for a credit on something, had to go to the commissioners. What we did was change the delegation of authority. Me, now Dave, can approve things up to $5 million, moves things through a lot quicker. We were challenged by the former Secretary Pollock on making sure that we could get projects out faster, from advertisement through bidding process. We put together an agile process, and Dave and I have decided we're coming back as Scrum Masters in our next life. But we went from a 90-day process down, I think it's down to like 28 days now. Once you open up a bid, we actually issue the notice to proceed. Fully electronic award process itself with the contracts. We rewrote all of our construction documents, made them all electronic signatures. Dave commented on the e-construction. We now have a process where, instead of having paperwork coming into the office, everything's done electronically. Used to be when we did an extra work order for a federal aided or a state aided project, you needed 9 copies for state aid and 11 copies for federal aided. Used to have these boxes show up in my office. It was a full box of Xerox paper just for one extra work order. And we estimated when we did e-construction, I think this estimate was probably low, that we were going to save like 300,000 pieces of paper by going fully electronic. And that's what we've done, moved it all forward. A new financial tracking system where we can report on our spending on a regular basis. It used to be, you only could do it at the end of the month. Now I can do it on a daily basis and get those updates in and get all that information. Develop Power BI dashboards. We also did a lot of work on our field inspection application for our resident engineers so that they used to have these LL books, or legal ledgers. They're leather bound. Used to have manifold books with carbon copies in them. Got rid of all that stuff. We're also moving on to e-ticketing for paving projects. When you're doing an extended paving job, every single truck that comes to a project site has to hand in a ticket to the resident engineer, so you can figure out how much asphalt was being laid that night and how much yield you're going to get out of each truck. That's all gone to an electronic process. Moving towards the use of drones for surveying, traffic delays, documenting project progress. Jess Kenny and her group on environmental compliance, using drones to view wetlands and things like that. And I think every consultant that's in this room will appreciate this. We went to a full electronic standard specifications, right? No more interim specs, no more supplemental specs, just one spec book, and it gets updated every single year. But all that stuff, if we hadn't done all that, when COVID-19 hit, we never would have been able to keep our program going. In March of 2020, and Governor Baker issued an executive order that made us all start working from home. Within a 2-week period, we had our staff up and running. We issued new laptops, we issued VPN accounts. We were able to keep our entire program running. And for FY21, we spent $1.1 billion. I was sitting in my attic managing a program of $1 billion, right? I mean, I'm looking at old toys. My kids are in their 30s. I'm still looking at Ghostbusters sitting over in the corner, right? But, that was what we did. We had my wife can't throw that stuff away because she had her first grandchild, so. But it's still up there. But, we never would have been able to do that without e-construction. We worked with our fiscal management group. They're still, they were still stuck on paper, but we implemented the use of Dropbox. We taught other sections how to use Adobe Signature. We streamlined a number of different processes, so it worked out very well. And while the pandemic is, I think everyone would say it's horrific, right? It's made the department much more streamlined, and it's made it such that we were challenged, and we had to get things done. And for many, many years, oh, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. But you know what? When you're forced to do it and you have to keep people working, you know, things all of a sudden started to happen. And the biggest one was e-signatures. I mean, we couldn't get that done. I tried for years to talk to people. Every time we had a new commissioner or administrator or a new general counsel or new chief engineer, I'd tell my $32,000 signature story, and they all go, oh, wow, that's unbelievable. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Just keep working. But it was, that was the type of thing that, you know, it does make the department a better place and much more streamlined. But when I look back, you know, on a lot of the different projects that we worked on, Dave mentioned some of them, but you know, the ARA program, economic recovery, we were the only game in town. We kept a lot of people working, both consultants and contractors. The accelerated bridge program, you know, it was a phenomenal program because it got us out of our comfort zone. We started doing use of SPMTs, bridge slides, bridge in a backpack, which I hope we never do again, PBUs, and more design build projects. We had the mega projects in the Fall River, Longfellow, Whittier, Burns, Route 79, Braga Bridge, Fast 14, which was phenomenal. You know, I remember when, before we started that project, we actually had an interstate paving job that was going on, and we had a blowout on one of the decks, excuse me, and it messed up traffic horribly. And Secretary Mullen at the time said, you know, what are we going to do to get this job done? And Shukri Al-Nahal was a deputy chief of bridges at the time. And he said, well, let's go and take a look at him. So we're out there and we're looking at underneath all the bridges, and Shukri turns to Secretary Mullen and says, you know, we could get a bridge done every single weekend and have it all done next summer. I'm standing next to him and go, what the hell did you tell him that for? What, are you crazy? You know, I'm still thinking, it took us 6 years to get consultants to put the right specification in from 4-inch pavement markings to 6-inch. And he's telling me we're going to do a whole bridge in a weekend. But he made us all believers, and I was talking to Frank Tramontosi about it before tonight. It was a great project, and it was really phenomenal to be involved with that. You know, standing in the middle of I-93 on a Sunday morning watching the sun coming up, and that Friday night, there wasn't a bridge there, and now you got traffic coming over on the next Monday morning. Same thing on Accelerate. We just did that out in Southborough this last summer. I think another amazing project was a ComAv bridge over the Mass Turnpike. You know, for 2 summers, we kind of screwed things up for a little while, but you know what? You know, we got a full new bridge in place, and it worked out fairly well. Same for all electronic tolling. You know, when everybody said, oh, you're going to take down the toll booths. I said, yeah, we are. And then when they started putting up the gantries, people said, they're in the wrong place. You know, the toll was over here, now you got a gantry over there, it doesn't work. And it works very well. And I remember that first night, we were standing out there, I was out in Weston, and 10 o'clock was going to be the magic hour. We were going to shut it down for the toll booth operators to leave their posts. And standing there, and 10 o'clock came along, right, and all the operators walked out, and we're looking out, and all the traffic is just backed up in the turnpike. And I was standing next to the area engineer, and go, what the heck's going on? He goes, I don't know. And I turned around, and every single lane indicator light was red. And the reason they're red is because nobody told us that when you take the IDs out, that's out of the slot, it turns everything red. So we had to find an electrician to come in and override the system. It took a little while. In the meantime, I'm standing on the turnpike with a flashlight and a yellow jacket on. Come on. But we got them through there, and it was a very successful project. You know, Brightman Street, Chelsea Street, there's many more. I could stand up here all night, but like I said, the Patriots are kicking off at 8:20. But I think the most challenging project that I ever worked on was probably the I-90 connector tunnel ceiling collapse. That project there, personally, was very difficult. My wife and I were at Market Basket on a Saturday morning. I got a phone call. Chief engineer at the time calls up and says, hey, you should come down here and see what's going on. I'm thinking, okay, you know, guy's really interested, you know, furthering my development. He was looking for somebody to be in charge. He didn't even want to tell me that. It was like my interview when I got down there. It was on a Sunday. I didn't leave for like 7 months after that. Every single day down there, working 18 hours a day, trying to get those tunnels open, and we did. And it was a great effort on the part of the department and everyone that was involved with it. But I'm being honored tonight for this leadership award, and that doesn't happen without having a great staff. I was blessed to have a very good group of people working with me. Dave Spicer's here. I know Jess Kenny's here tonight. But I had a lot of really good people that really made me look a lot better than I am. So thank you very much. I have to get back to Florida because I've got to go work on my golf game. But thank you. I appreciate this very much. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Congratulations again to honorees and all scholarship winners. Thank you, Secretary Theoharides, and Mike. Thank you very much, Mike McGrath. It's nice to hear from TECET Scholarship winners, Melanie Sola, and also Rossiter Family Scholarship winners, Joseph Diaz and Janalise Garcia Ruiz. It's always inspiring to hear from them, and I feel, and you feel the same way every time we hear from them, TECET doing something right. Thank you, all of you, joining us this celebration and for your continued support for our cause. I have a quick announcement. We are actually our major fundraiser event is a golf tournament. We will be having June 27th at the Marlborough Country Club. We are changing our venue from Shaker Country Hill Club to Marlborough Country Club. That's a private club, so you typically wouldn't be able to play it. So that's exciting. And I also want to apologize. I sent you multiple emails for some of you for this event, and also David Bond called some of you multiple times. For next fundraiser event, here's a tip for you. Sign up soon, and we wouldn't bother you at all. So dinner is now being served, and those in person, we have an opportunity to speak with our honorees and the scholarship recipients. Feel free to do so. So virtual portion of our program will now end. So people, those who are joining by stream live, sorry we can't feed you a dinner because technology is not there yet. Thank you for participating, and we look forward to seeing you all in person again next year. Thank you. Stay healthy and have wonderful Thanksgiving.